If you're alive and on the internet, you've probably heard of Red Bull's Dance Your Style competitions. Easily the most well-known street dance competition in the world, Red Bull Dance Your Style has many phases. It takes dancers from around the world, from all different styles, and has them compete in local and regional events before eventually culminating in national and then world championships. Competitors come from a variety of different communities and styles like whacking, breaking, popping, and even vogue, and there's a slew of corporate sponsors at these events. At the top is Red Bull itself. But is Red Bull Dance Your Style actually serving the dancers that made it great or the community that built it up? Or is it just increasing to an environment that increasingly neglects the roots of dance history that it comes from and cannibalizes the hard work and talent of the best dancers in the world to fuel an insatiable late-stage internet content economy? Los Angeles recently hosted the 2025 Red Bull Dance Your Style World Finals, where dancers from 51 different countries came to the Intuit Dome where thousands of spectators watched them compete to be the best dancer in the world. With a base ticket price of over $50, thousands of people in the audience, internationally recognized guests and spectators and judges, and a slew of corporate sponsors from T-Mobile to Takis to Red Bull themselves, you would expect these dancers to be competing for a pretty big sum of money. So how much were they competing for? Sorry, hold on one second. How much? Now, it's hard to get exact details on the prizes for Worlds, so I don't want to speak with 100% authority that there was zero prize at all, but as best as I can tell, the prizes for Nationals are pretty negligible, with only first place getting $1,500, the second place getting $750. The rest of the prize is just them flying you out and putting you in a hotel to compete at the next level. And the same goes for Regionals, which has a first place prize of $750. And that's not to say that this is nothing, but for dancers who are putting their lives on hold to travel around the world and are ostensibly the best dancers in the entire world, generating millions, billions of views for these companies and billions of revenue, it's weird that they aren't compensated at all. There's a lot of smaller dance competitions that are much more community focused, whose prizes are much bigger. I've seen over $20,000, over $30,000 in prizes. Comparing it to ballroom really quickly, because that's the world that I'm from, we've had balls with 6 figures of prizes, and some of that is corporate money as well, but it's actually going to the performers and not to the larger ecosystem of sort of corporate jobs. To be clear though, the main point of this video isn't really about the prize money, because it's never really been the main force for people to join Red Bull Dance. As much as they should be giving out bigger prizes, given the amount of corporate sponsors they have and the amount that they're charging for tickets, at the end of the day, the kind of subtext has always been that people are doing this for the platform and for the exposure. That's a conversation in and of itself. Obviously, exposure doesn't pay rent, and these companies should be paying the most talented dancers in the world. But at the end of the day, when people are making the personal choice to compete in these competitions, usually that reasoning is that it puts you on a platform that you wouldn't be otherwise, to be seen by millions, billions of people around the world, and to then sort of hopefully turn into a career. But as of recently, that side of the bargain hasn't been held up either. If you wanted to watch footage from Red Bull Dance Your Style a few years ago, you'd probably be doing it on YouTube in a long form video like this one. And you would be seeing the entire competition, maybe from prelims all the way to world finals, either in a playlist or in separate videos or all in one long live stream. And you'd be able to see the dancer, what country they came from, what style they're representing. You'd be able to watch their rounds in the context of the larger competitions. So you'd be seeing them from the very beginning to the very end. You could see how they interact with other people. You could see their highlights and their moments, and maybe a battle that they didn't do as well in, but the reason that they stayed is because the other person did even worse. So you had this entire context of the event as if you're actually a spectator. But now things are a little bit different. Recently, a lot of the content that Red Bull has been posting from their Dance Your Style events is following this sort of 2025 formula of clickbaity, short form, TikTok style highlight reels, where they're either combining 10-second clips from tons of different battles, or they are showcasing one battle but only one side of it, and most importantly, they're not really crediting their dancers. Let's take a look at this TikTok video that they posted of the top 5 most unreal spins. These are all clips from a breaking event that they hosted, which they don't even mention. None of the dancers are credited in the caption, they're not tagged, and all there is this sort of 1 through 5 random ranking with these kind of arbitrary names assigned to them. The names that are being assigned are not the names of the techniques being used. You're not teaching anyone about the dance style. You're just kind of using these highly splashable words or like TikTok phrases to describe these spins. It doesn't really even describe what's happening. It feels very almost AI generated, which it may be. Regardless of whether it's AI generated though, the point is that the dancers aren't credited, the style isn't credited, the names of the moves aren't credited. There is no attempt to educate, there's no attempt to bring people into the dance culture, there's no attempt to call back to its roots. All it is just attention farming. Here's another example. This one is a little bit closer to home because it's voguing and it's someone that I know and love and have worked with. This is Riley Prodigy dancing in a Red Bull Dancer Style event, and they've posted her video or a clip of her video with this big text caption, "She improvised this ... in heels," which is just kind of silly, where it's like, yeah, of course she improvised it. It's a freestyle street style dance competition, and she's wearing heels because she likes to wear heels when she vogues. But there's no mention of the style she's doing. There's no mentions of the names of the moves that she's doing. It's just this kind of ambiguous, amorphous, universal, like clickbait, oh my God, feeling, right? They did credit her in the caption of this one. I believe they added it after the fact, from what I know. Here's another clip. It's pretty much the same as the first. They're just kind of compiling a bunch of clips from various regional events around the world. No one is mentioned, no names are given, no styles are given, no move names are given. Because we're talking about street style dances that come from marginalized communities, that come from the Black community, that come from the LGBTQ plus community, it's especially, I think, relevant that all of the identifiers, both of the names, of the moves, the cultures, the people performing them, are stripped back in favor of just this sort of commodified entertainment value. And I think it's something that I'm especially sensitive to because of that. And obviously I understand the constraints of short form video, right? You can't always put the entire history of every single style in a 15-second video. Sometimes you just have to get to the point and you want people to watch it, and I get all that. But when you're taking out the credit for the dancers, the equation just completely falls flat. If the dancers aren't getting paid much at all, if at all, if the dancers are having to mostly go out of their own pocket to compete in your events, and then they're not even getting credited, and their clips are just being used to kind of serve as this content farm that gets people to engage and connect with the brands at the top of it, then what is the point anymore? Why are the dancers doing it? And if you're not actively supporting, lifting up, or even naming the communities that are getting you all the attention, then why do you deserve to be the figurehead of it? To be fair though, Red Bull's connection with athletes and events goes far beyond just these little YouTube clips. They have a long-standing history of partnerships with different sports and different athletes, and you can actually even go onto their site and see the athletes that are being named as Red Bull athletes that they're sponsoring and that they're supporting. So let's do that, and then let's filter it by dance. Never mind, sorry. Obviously, this isn't a Red Bull specific problem. The idea of dancers not being respected as athletes is by no means a new conversation in the dance world, but it does kind of further tie into what I'm already talking about. Clearly, Red Bull understands that this is marketable, that this is profitable. That's why they keep having these events. Red Bull Dancer Style is ultimately just one symptom of a much larger and more endemic disease. The profitability and the marketing of these street styles has been discovered long, long ago by corporations, and they've tried to extract the value out of it as much as they can while disconnecting it from its roots and disconnecting from the people who are actually making them the money. And this is just kind of, in many ways, a logical extreme of that we've already seen. But as a community, I think it's important that we stand up against it, that we demand that dancers are properly credited, that we're not reduced to these kind of AI slop highlight reels being the only things that gets posted, that our styles are actually talked about with respect and that are being educated with, right? That these massive platforms that have the reach, that have the ability to teach so many people, actually use those platforms to teach them and not to just feed them endless slop. As easy as it is to place all the blame on these huge corporations who are feeding us the slop, there's also some amount of personal accountability that needs to be taken for consuming the slop happily. That's not to say, you have to self-police every single time that you scroll on a social media website, but I think it is important to critically engage with the material that we're consuming. If you come across a clip like this where no one is credited and there's no real information, make sure you let the system know that you weren't interested in it, Make sure that you type a comment saying, hey, you need to credit your dancers. This is not reflective of your values as a company. Make sure you use your voice, because it's one thing to just complain about this and recognize it as a problem, but it's another thing to actually show these corporations and companies that we don't want these things to keep happening. I think it's so tempting, especially with how huge everything feels, to just sort of throw up your hands and accept the way that we have things. But it's all the more important than ever to use your voice and to make your opinion known. At the end of the day, my main point is that the talented dancers who have trained in styles for decades and are competing on world stages as the best dancers in the world deserve respect, they deserve to be paid, and they deserve to have their art treated like art and not slop. And at the end of the day, I don't think that's too much to ask for. If you have any opinions on this, please leave your comments down below, not just for engagement, but because I genuinely want to know what you have to say, especially if you are in the freestyle dance community, if you are involved in these spaces, because I think it's a conversation that we have a lot behind closed doors, but I would like to, have it more public facing. And other than that, obviously it feels a little weird to advertise myself on a video like this, but if you are interested in learning how to vogue, you're welcome to join the YouTube channel. It's $10 a month and you get one full-length free tutorial video every single month, plus access to a backlog of well over, I think, 1.5 years at this point of monthly videos. And yeah, I hope to see you there if you have any interest in learning vogue. If not, no worries. I would still love it if you like or subscribe, wherever those buttons are, and have a good day.